Mike, and welcome to yet another Coming from the Woods tonight. Not really my porch in my backyard, but it's so nice and comfortable out here. I wanted to do it. We're doing our outdoor IncrediChat tonight, but that's okay. If it gets a little too dark out here, then I'm going to relocate. But tonight, we have a very cool guest star joining us, and we already have people joining, so that's great. Make sure you have questions. Tonight, our special guest is an amazing writer, and he's written so many of the great characters of our time, you know, Big Hero 6, Spider-Man, Frozen, and my personal favorite, DuckTales, as well as many other things. So tonight we're going to welcome to IncrediChat, Joe Caramagna. And here he is. There's Joe.
Hey,
hello, Joe.
I'm here. Hello.
Welcome.
Hello. What's going on, buddy? You know, I almost broadcasted from outside myself. Now, you're not outside. You're like in a porch, right?
I'm on my porch. It's a nice night. Yeah. I was like, you know, we just had dinner out here, and I felt I had worked at a summer camp for some time, and I'm like, you know what, today it feels very summer campy out here. So I'm like, I'm gonna do IncrediChat from outside today or from the porch. So that's cool.
Yeah,
but yes,
really nice night. I almost did that too, but I thought it would get too dark, so I chickened out. Came inside.
And then I'm going to move to a different room. But thank you for joining us here on IncrediChat. I mean, we've been meaning to get you on here, and we finally got it done. So that's awesome. So welcome.
Oh, thank you. I haven't seen you in a while, too. So this was nice.
I know. Well, I mean, cons, unfortunately, we were supposed to see each other in March. And
yes, we were.
For our IncrediCon. And unfortunately, things being what they were, it looks like the con biz is going to be out of while.
For a while.
Yeah. Michelle Borg says, "Good choice, the porch." But yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with cons. What do you think is going to happen with cons?
I don't even want to predict, but you know, I didn't think I would miss cons this much in such a short time, but I really do. You know, I like catching up with people, and you know, in this business, everyone's working in their homes, and we rarely get to see each other. So it's nice to connect with friends every now and again in person and grab a bite to eat, hang out. You know, it's nice. And you don't realize, you know, when you're in the middle of it, you think about the travel being such a hassle, you know, like, oh, I have to go to the airport and then, you know, get a car and all that. But then you really miss it when it's not there. So that's what I've learned.
Absolutely. Like, and that's like the thing. We were out for a walk yesterday, and I was like, wow, you know, like this is the longest I've gone without a con. And I'm obviously same for you. Like I probably do almost 1 month. You know, if not every other month, the winter months being different, but like it is weird. It is very weird.
It's very strange to have nice weather and not have a con to look forward to, right?
I remember that was a year ago in May, we were both down at MegaCon. That was a great con. So,
but that wasn't the last time I saw you, right? We've seen each other since then, right?
I'm thinking nice weather. The last time we saw you. When? Gosh, did you do?
I was trying to remember.
What were you at our October IncrediCon?
Was I? I don't know.
I don't remember. I
don't remember either. I don't know. I know I was with you guys at the mall in Middletown, the Galleria.
That was last summer.
That was last summer. So. Yeah.
We had to have seen some. I'm sure we saw each other sometime.
I'm sure. I hate to think that the last time I saw you was at the Golden Corral.
The Golden Corral down in Orlando. But
that's right.
That was still good times.
That was a good time.
Hey, you cannot. You know what? I'm thinking Golden Corral. There's one not far from my house. You know, Golden Corral. Not gonna happen anymore.
I know. That's what I'm afraid of.
And that's such a fun restaurant. Any of those buffets. I said to my girlfriend, I'm like, no Golden Corral. But anyway,
at least not for a long time.
No, yeah, with maybe some kind of guards. I don't know what they'll do. But anyways,
there's no guards that'll keep what we saw out.
Like that little girl.
Yeah.
That's not. Oh my god.
That girl was classic.
Yes.
It was like an SNL skit almost, or I felt like we were in a prank show.
I totally forgot about that until you mentioned it. Oh my god.
Yeah. I ate the food anyway. It didn't bother me.
Again, at that point in time, who knew? Who saw like anything like this would happen? It's like you go to a buffet, like you know. Where do I've been to I went to this store here. Maybe you've been there. Have you been to Stu Leonard's in Yonkers?
Oh yeah. Not
Yes.
in Yonkers. We have one near me. Yeah.
Well, and like, you know, one of the cool things about going to Stu Leonard's is like they have all the cool samples out there, and they even have like the little animatronic, the cheap animatronic. All those are put away now. There's no samples. I'm like, oh, all these things that we took for granted are gone.
I know. It's the amusement park of food stores, right? Isn't that what they call it? The amusement park of supermarkets?
It's something. But no, we love Stu Leonard. So if anybody wants to send us some Stu Leonard stuff, that's great too. No,
Great donuts at Stu Leonard's.
Yeah.
Great apple cider donuts. Highly
I'm
recommended.
I'm a fan of their crumb cake. That's good stuff.
I haven't had their crumb cake. Now I'm gonna have to.
They have apple. They have all different kinds of crumb cake, so it's very good. Keith Gleason,
I'm there.
Here, Joe Caramagna is the nicest guy in comics. Miss you, buddy. That's from Keith Gleason, who's watching us tonight.
Oh, I miss you too, bud.
So let's talk a little bit about comics. So you've worked on so many great properties, and I don't think we've ever really talked about this with you. How did you get started writing for comics?
Oh boy, this is a really long answer. I think I'll try to keep it as short as possible. Basically, all my life, like everyone else, you know, I love to write and draw my own stories.
Okay.
G.I. Joe fan, He-Man fan. So I would always just do my own little He-Man stories and Spider-Man stories and all that. And I wanted to be a comic book artist. I wanted to be Todd McFarlane. He was my hero. He was drawing Amazing Spider-Man when I was about 13, 14 years old. Mm-hmm. And that's what I wanted to do. So when I was of age, I enrolled in the Kubert School here in New Jersey. And yeah, I was very fortunate that I lived about 25 minutes away from it. Which if not, I probably wouldn't have a career today because there's no way that I would have lived away from home because I'm such a homebody. I like having my mom nearby, so very lucky that the Kubert School was close by, and I studied to be a comic book artist, but it turns out that I wasn't very good compared to the other guys that were there.
Well, I just want to interrupt you for a second. Those of us who are following you on social media, you did post a sample of some found artwork I saw the other day.
Yes. And that was drawn while I was a student at the Kubert School.
Yeah, that was good.
It's not that good, but I mean, it could be worse. You know, it could be worse, but it's not that good. But while I was there, I realized real quick that I probably would never have a career drawing comics. So I went to my second love, which was writing stories. And I really leaned into that about halfway through, like midway through my second year. I said, I better really start writing and honing those skills and taking advantage of the environment because, I mean, Joe Kubert is an awesome storyteller. He's not just a good draftsman. I mean, he's a great storyteller all around. So I picked his brain as much as I could, and I had another writing teacher there, Joe Edkin, whose brain I picked as much as I could. And when I got out of school, it turns out that no one was interested in me drawing. No one was interested in me writing. They hired me to be a letterer.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, while I was at the Kubert School, I took a lettering course. It's required. Everybody had to. And from there...
Initially, comics, right? That's why they require it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the goal at the Kubert School is to teach you how to make your own comics, like soup to nuts, you know, all yourself, not relying on anybody else. They teach you all the skills, all the disciplines, and you're on your way. Supposedly, I wasn't. But my lettering instructor, Hi Eisman, recommended me for a Marvel internship at the time. Marvel was trying to start up their own in-house lettering department. Mm-hmm. And they were looking for interns to train to be full-time employees in the lettering department. So I was very lucky enough to get recommended for that position, and I interviewed and I got it, which was crazy. It was like the greatest thing that ever happened to me. I was so excited to be up in the bullpen.
You must have seen cool people and things up there too, right?
Oh yeah, I worked right outside John Romita's office, which was incredible. Yeah, such a cool experience. And Chris Claremont was on staff at the time, so he would be walking around, and I'm just like, what am I doing here? This is crazy. I can't believe I'm here. And I loved every second of it. They would have to kick me out at the end of the day because I just wanted to stay and keep working. And I learned so much there. I met so many different people. And when my internship was up, going back to that piece of artwork that I posted yesterday, I was getting married, and they offered me a full-time position at Marvel in the bullpen.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, the salary was not near what I needed it to be, because I was in the process of buying a house with my wife.
Gotcha.
And yeah, and just the cost of commute would have just eaten up much of my salary. So I kind of just floated around for a few years. I worked for my dad's company. He had a construction business, and just kept plugging away, trying to break into the comics business for 5 years, until Chris Eliopoulos, who is a cartoonist now, who he's a producer of Xavier Riddle and the Secret Museum animated series on PBS Kids.
Yeah.
He had his own lettering company, still does, VC, Virtual Calligraphy.
Okay.
And I was introduced to him by a friend, and it turns out that, well, I had asked him for a job because I wanted to work in comics, and he said no. And then he was talking to someone at Marvel about me. The guy I used to intern for, it turns out, was a longtime friend of Chris's.
Really?
And he said, "Oh, Joe, you got to hire him. He's great." So Chris called me up, and he gave me a chance. And that was in 2005. And we're almost at the 15-year anniversary of my my employment in comics. And took it from there. And I just kept, all the time while I was working, just kept trying to move up, kept working at it, meeting as many people as possible, showing my samples, writing my own stories, passing them around. And I got my first writing gig. It was 2007. It was a Marvel Adventures Fantastic Four story.
Okay.
And I was lettering a story for the editor, Nate Cosby. And I guess a writer flaked out on him at the last minute. And so he just called me up and said, "Hey, you want to be a writer? Can you write me a script by Monday? I need 10 pages of Fantastic Four." And I was like, "Yeah, of course I can." So I hung up the phone. I said, "There's no way I can write 10 pages of Fantastic Four. Like, what am I going to write? I have nothing to write about."
You were determined at that point, because that was it.
But I was in it then. I couldn't say no. It was too late. I already said yes. So that's it. I turned in the 10 pages, and it was slow going at first, but slowly I built up more and more work, and that's where I am now, writing stuff for Disney.
Well, I mean, and certainly, and we're going to talk about that. I mean, like, you've written so many of, like, their key characters right now. There's really some popular properties that are out there, and it's not the classic characters, which I mean, when we look at Disney, like, they're the classic characters, but like, you're really working with some of the modern day characters. So from your Fantastic Four Marvel, how long was that window between them and going to Disney? Like, and what was in between that?
Between that was me begging for a lot of work. Every time there was some kind of anthology, backup story to be written, I would beg for the gig. Most of the time I was turned down. Just kept plugging away at it. And another editor decided to give me a chance, Tom Brennan. He's no longer at Marvel, but he was there for quite a few years. And he was editing the All Ages line at the time, particularly Ultimate Spider-Man. And he hired me to write some stories. And before I knew it, I was writing all the stories. And I ended up writing not only Ultimate Spider-Man monthly, but at the same time I was writing Avengers Assemble, based on the Marvel animated series. And I was writing the Guardians of the Galaxy comic based on the animated series.
Gotcha.
So then I went from like writing nothing and begging for scraps to writing 3 monthly books for Marvel, the All Ages line.
Well, that's because that was one thing I was definitely going to ask about too, is like you said, you started with a regular Fantastic Four story. How did you make that bridge? Was that even a goal to be, because I mean, now you're pretty much known as writing all ages comics, You know, like that's where a lot of your work is. Was that where you wanted it to go originally, or you were just happy writing wherever? Or like, what was your?
In the beginning, I was happy writing whatever. But if you asked me 10 years ago, I would have told you that the dream gig would have been to write Amazing Spider-Man.
Gotcha.
But I've changed so much since then. Like I came to the realization, and a couple of my editors told me, they're like, "You're a really great all ages writer. Just focus on that, and you'll do great." And I kept trying to write other things that maybe I wasn't suited for. Just because, like, wow, Amazing Spider-Man, I've read that since I was a kid, so I would love to write it. Not realizing that maybe it wasn't really for me, and like Avengers and X-Men and stuff like that wasn't really for me in my style of writing. The all ages stuff was. And I guess my goals kind of changed from there. Once I started writing the Ultimate Spider-Man stuff, I was all in with the all ages books. I loved it. The stuff that was based on the animated series, I just fell in love with that. And it was a different story every issue. It wasn't like a 6-issue arc of something. Yeah, I wrote every character you can imagine. I wrote every villain you can imagine. And I was thinking, if I were writing Amazing Spider-Man, I wouldn't be able to do that. You know, so I got to write basically every single Marvel character that you can just name right now. I'll be like, yeah, I wrote a few stories with that character.
Now, as a writer, do you find it easier to write like those smaller standalone stories? I mean, like DuckTales, like those are like 10-page stories, like some of the things that you've written.
In the beginning, they were, yeah.
Is it easier to write something shorter like that, or is it better to write like a long, like 6-issue arc, essentially?
I guess it would be easier to write a 6-issue arc of something because you can really let scenes breathe a little bit, and you don't have to go in and out so quickly. But those short stories, those DuckTales 10-pagers, man, they were brutal. They were so brutal. They were so difficult to write because you have to get in, you have to tell the whole story, you got to get out in 10 pages, and there's really the stuff that gets sacrificed for the plot, for the sake of the plot, is all the humor.
Yeah,
you know, it takes up a lot of panels sometimes. A visual gag eats up space, so that's the stuff that gets cut when you have too much script for the pages that you're allowed. So I really begged everyone that would listen to expand those to 20 pages. And I finally got what I asked for near the end of the run. And it was so much better. Those stories are so much better.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big DuckTales fan. Like I remember back in the days, I don't know if you remember, Disney had their own comic line for a while. Sure. Disney Comics, and they did like some, there were probably about some 7 to 8 issue arcs that they did with the DuckTales character. Like,
oh wow.
Yeah, I mean, like, and they were good stories, and like you're saying, like the short ones, there's a lot to do, you know, in like those 10 pages and then maybe the 20 pages, but like certainly, like, I don't know, it was good. It was good to read a long DuckTales story, like 6 issues, long, but it was also like it's like too much for this one story for them. Like you can.
Oh, really?
How many times is Launchpad in this one story going to come back to plane? But let's talk a little bit about DuckTales and Frozen, because I mean those are two of your more recent books that you've done, which are some really big properties. What is it like coming into? I mean, maybe DuckTales a little bit more free, but certainly like Frozen. Frozen is Disney's cash cow, 100%.
Yeah, certainly.
Walking into Frozen or coming into the Frozen, what are the rules, the parameters that they set for you? Because certainly, and you were writing, and we talked about this, you were writing Frozen in between the two movies, so before Frozen 2 came out. So were there certain things that they said to you, listen, Joe, don't touch this stuff because we may do this in the sequel, or we may do this in a TV special or something down the line? Like, what is that process like?
There was definitely a lot of no, you can't do this because it's going to be in the movie. Before I knew what was going to be in the movie.
It's getting dark in here too. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No problem. But I actually started writing Frozen long before I did the Dark Horse stuff, because I was writing short stories for Disney Magazine.
Okay.
So when they were starting up those miniseries for Dark Horse, Disney contacted me originally to create the plots for those minis, thinking that another writer would script those plots. So they were basically hiring me for just to generate story ideas, and then I would hand it off to another writer to script. By the time that process ended, I was kind of sad to let it go because I was sad to let it go because I really started enjoying writing Frozen, which I never really thought. I knew I would like it because I like every Disney property. I would love to write anything. But I didn't know what to expect when I was writing Frozen, and I ended up loving it so much. And when it came time to turn the stories that I'd written over the course of, I think it was almost 2 years, to turn those stories over to another writer to finish, it just felt so wrong to me. So when Disney came back and said that they wanted me to actually script them too, I was so relieved. It was great. It was like the greatest thing ever. It took me by surprise that Frozen is probably my favorite thing that I've ever written, including DuckTales, everything. Yeah, by far. Yeah.
And you know what? And what looking at something like Frozen 2 is, it's definitely a very, it's a very girl power kind of book. Not like when you think of comic books, you don't normally think of like Disney princesses, and was it, and coming from writing Spider-Man, coming from writing like Fantastic Four, things like that, was there like an on-off switch in like writing for like these very male-dominated, superhero books to writing about Anna and Elsa, like these two?
Not really. I have two sisters, and I drew a lot from their relationship with each other and my relationship with them. So it felt natural to write a story about two sisters because I've observed the story of two sisters interacting almost my entire life. My one sister's younger than I am, so I guess for her entire life, I've witnessed this interaction between sisters. So it was natural for me. I was just basically just regurgitating stuff that I'd seen my whole life because my sisters are very close too.
Gotcha.
They lived together at one point. They're both teachers. They worked in the same school
oh my God.
for many years. Yeah, my sisters are very close, so I had that to draw from. So it felt very natural to me. And I grew up in a household with all women and me and my dad. It was 5 women and me and my dad. My mom, my 2 sisters, my aunt, and my cousin all lived with me and my dad. So and my dad worked a lot. So I was mostly home with women all the time. So just felt comfortable. I didn't have to change anything. I just wrote the way I write, the way I tell stories.
Gotcha. So yeah, because I know sometimes like that is an intimidating thing, and I know like I'll just say hi to a couple of people I have watching. We have Martin Bennett tonight watching, Dave Odell, our good buddy Joe Ryan, Anthony Just, who owns the local comic shop, and you might have met Anthony a couple of times. He owns the Alterniverse. He's one of our proud backers of all this stuff, and certainly once all this stuff is going, I know Anthony would love to have you up here at the store once the store's open, Anthony, so don't worry. We're playing it safe, but I mean, even, and I guess the Frozen books do sell well because my son likes Frozen. I know you've given me a couple for him, but like going back, even looking for back issues, like going into Alterniverse and stuff, like those books sell out pretty quickly too. I mean, so you probably no, I mean, and it's interesting to see. I'm even just curious what kind of audience it has. Is it just like little girls like you would traditionally think, or are you really thinking like guys like even our age, like, oh, this is cool, this is Frozen, we dig this book and pick it up, which I'm sure is probably across the board.
Yeah, I assume that my audience was mostly children, and when I went to MegaCon where I saw you, a lot of young women, I'm guessing like teen years and above, were coming up to me saying, "Oh my God, I love your Frozen comic," and I was like, "Wow, oh, cool." I didn't expect that. I thought I was writing for a very young audience, and I didn't realize that it was really like a YA kind of audience, which is great. I loved it. Yeah, that took me by surprise. But I've gotten comments from all different people. A lot of guys who I guess they want to pretend like they're macho, and they're like, "Yeah, I read it to my daughter. They're good." I'm like, just say you like it.
There's nothing wrong with going to see Frozen. It's or reading.
Yeah, it's
Frozen.
great.
Enjoy it. It's Disney. It's good. But now let's move on to DuckTales too. Now, so DuckTales. Right. How early on in the process of the development of that show were you writing the books? Were you, because I know you generally have had an ear to what's going on prior. Were you around before the show began, or?
I was completing my first DuckTales scripts about a year before the show aired.
Okay.
So I was on board very, very early. Earlier you were speaking about the classic Disney characters. I actually, oh, my ring, somebody's here. I was actually writing a Mickey, Donald, and Goofy project that ended up getting canceled, which happens a lot. My son's yelling downstairs, so maybe I can't hear what he's saying. She went out. I don't even know if that's true. No, what was I saying? I'm on this right now. So now I forgot again what I was saying, just when I remembered. My son just got home from his friend's house. Oh yeah, I was working on a Mickey, Donald, and Goofy project that got canceled. And like I said, it happens a lot. You know, they hire me to write some stuff, and just when I get started, they're like, "No, we decided not to do it." But they said, "Here, work on this instead." And they sent me all these notes and everything for, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but it was a Donald Duck project that didn't air in the US. If you get what I'm saying. So
you weren't allowed to say that at the time, you mean?
What's that?
You weren't allowed to say it at the time, or you're not allowed to say it now?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say it now, so that's as far as I'll go with it.
You know what DuckTales is.
No, but a Donald Duck project before DuckTales.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, I was going to write comics based on that.
Well, because sorry to interrupt. And it's on Disney Plus, and I think it's awesome. I don't know if did you see the Legend of the Three Caballeros?
No. I saw some of it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a different cartoon. I mean, and that's done in the more traditional animations, like the traditional DuckTales look, if you will. And you know, like
definitely.
And then that aired initially in another country, and Disney Plus has it. So I don't know if that's the project, but I think I'm surprised for that show. Disney didn't do more with it here in the States, and I'm surprised it hasn't even gotten a second season, which is weird. I guess.
I don't know. I don't know anything about it.
But
then they hired me to write the other Donald Duck, and then that ended up getting canceled. And they said, "Would you mind writing DuckTales?" Would I mind?
Mind writing DuckTales?
Like what? This was the best of all the stuff you offered me. Like, are you crazy? Would I mind? Yeah, I guess I wouldn't mind. Send me the information, and it just went from there.
So
that was summer of 2016, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, and that show definitely is still going strong now too. I mean, they're at season 3, I think they are now.
Season 3, yeah.
Like, what was it? How was it? You know, seeing all the early on iterations of it when you were getting all the notes as you're writing the stories to kind of, you know, stop your mind thinking of the DuckTales that we all know and love and be like, all right, we're writing the new DuckTales now. Because, I mean, like, a lot of the characters, there's a lot of differences. Like, the boys really have different personalities. So does Webby. Mrs. Beakley is super spy. Gyro is, like, a lot of the characters, like, that is not the goofy Gyro that we remember from our DuckTales or even, like, the Carl Barks stories. Like, how is it writing those characters now? Because, and especially coming on early on while they were developing, giving these these iterations their voice?
Well, by the time I came on, that stuff was already fully fleshed out, as far as I know. Maybe Frank Angonis has a different story. I don't know, but it seemed like it was fully formed by the time I got involved with the comic.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was interesting that the boys each had their own personalities, and Webby was so different. I loved Webby from the start. I thought it was phenomenal. I figured that she would take off as a character, the new version of Webby, and Gyro ended up being my favorite character to write out of all of them.
Well, he did write a great story too. So,
oh, thank you. Yeah, it got to a point where they had to tell me stop pitching Louis stories and stop pitching Gyro stories. That's pretty much all I was doing.
Like that. Let me ask you, like in a show like DuckTales. I mean, even in Frozen, I know you have a pretty cool Kristoff story you might want to share with us too. How do they want you to break down, like, because you're working really with an ensemble piece there, like, do they give you like a balance of like, well, you know, like you said, let's not focus on Louis, or let's not focus, like, we want you to do a Webby story, or we want you to do a Kristoff story, or an Olaf, you know, like, how do they balance that out with ensemble pieces like that? Because there are so many great characters.
Well, with Frozen, we started in the planning stage. We decided, okay, this first story is going to focus more on Anna, and I introduced another character, a new character that Anna befriends. So we focused on Anna in the first one. Then it was more Elsa, and then Kristoff, and then we did the sisters, a story about like the sisters and sisterhood that led into Frozen 2. So that was the plan even before I came up with any plots or anything. Like, we knew that that's what we wanted to do. Not necessarily the order. Like, we could have done an Elsa story first, and you know, but I just led with Anna because she was my favorite character. So I did that one first. For DuckTales, it's more like just pitch as many different stories starring as many of the characters as possible. And every maybe 3 weeks, they'd be like, okay, we need more pitches. And I would have to go back and start writing, okay, let's see, what could I have Louis do this time? Or, you know, I love, I'm blanking on the name, Don Carnage. I'm like, let me think of a story where I have Don Carnage be the villain. And I would just do that and send in a handful of stories, maybe 5 at a time. And they would pick maybe 3 of them.
Well, it's interesting. Like you mentioned, Don, and I know you and I talked about Don Carnage back when he first reappeared on DuckTales. Like, they have, the comic books really do focus, and I'm just talking DuckTales here. Like I noticed, like, they really focus on the boys and Webby. You know, Scrooge, Donald Launchpad, Mrs. Beakley. Occasionally, we'll get a Gyro story. I think Mark Beeks has been in a couple of them, but we're not really seeing a lot of those supporting characters. Like, it would be, I would love to see a Don Carnage story. I know you and I talked about Gizmo Duck. It would be like, and they finally did have a Gizmo Duck story towards the end, but like, I would like to see more Gizmo Duck.
Yeah,
you know, like there is such a universe, especially with DuckTales. Like, you know, like when you would pitch like a Don Carnage or a Gizmo Duck, and I think Bubba's coming later this season. I've seen pictures from what's coming online, but like when you would pitch like an idea for like a Don Carnage or Gizmo Duck, were they, because they were not like the main core group, is that why they usually didn't do it, or they just?
I guess in a way, yeah. They did want to eventually do a Gizmo Duck story, like you said, towards the end, if not the last issue. Was it? No, it wasn't the last issue. It was like second to last, or something like that. Close to the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, we finally got a Gizmo Duck in there, but they really did want to focus on the main family, if you will. You know, Scrooge, Donald, the boys, Webby. Some of the characters, for times, we were not allowed to use, and that's because the TV schedule was so erratic that we didn't know when anything was going to air. And we were basically told, okay, don't write anything with Webby in it until we give you the green light. So many months of the comic went by with no Webby. It's like, how do you leave Webby out? The timing was so bad on our part, because she was so popular right from the pilot.
Yeah.
So we really missed the boat on that one. But they were so afraid of us introducing something in the comic, and rightly so. I'm not saying it as a criticism. They were afraid that keeping up a monthly schedule in the comic, we would introduce characters in the comic before they aired in the show, and it would take away the impact from seeing those characters on TV.
Gotcha.
So we did have to hold back a lot of stuff. I have a Webby story that actually never saw print that I love. I really loved writing that script, and it's just unproduced, just sitting out there, and just because of timing. It's a Webby and Lena story.
Oh,
so
yeah. See her in the comics. See?
Well, she was supposed to be in the comic, but when it came time to publish that story, Lena was gone off the show.
Yeah.
So we were in continuity with the show.
Gotcha.
So they didn't want to even hint that Lena might come back. So they were holding my story. And then they held it so long that stuff happened in the show that made my story completely irrelevant. So yeah, it was funny. It was real funny.
I mean, I guess the one thing too, which again, our version of DuckTales as opposed to the new DuckTales that's on now, you know, and this goes for comics, and it probably even goes for like, you know, you were writing these one shots for Spider-Man. Like, did you have the rules for Spider-Man and Guardians, like some similar kind of things, like you couldn't touch characters or scenarios for that, or were they a little bit more free?
Well, most of the stuff I was doing with the animated stuff were adaptations of the existing episodes. So I would take an episode and maybe change the point of view, or I would have Spider-Man narrate it, so you hear what his thoughts are all throughout instead of hearing the dialogue from the show. Like, I would take an episode and I would put a little spin on it and change it up a little bit. So I already had those plots and everything worked out. I was, I was working with what I had to work with.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was a totally different situation.
Yeah, because definitely, like, again, thinking about cartoons like from when we were kids and comic book tie-ins to then, like, you know, a show like DuckTales now, like it is really it's serialized. Like you need if you miss an episode, you're like lost in the sauce.
Yeah, you're lost. Right.
You know, and that's like the comic book, because like back, like I told you, like that long 8-issue DuckTales story I read when I was a kid, like it was just another DuckTales story, because I'm accepted unless it was like the, you know, the Gizmo Duck or the Bubba Duck, like 5-part episode. Everything you can watch DuckTales in any which way that you want, because who cares? they're
right. Yeah, everything, all the toys were put back in the box when you're done.
Yeah.
So exactly. Right. And this show is so different now. It's more serialized. So we had a lot more restrictions as far as what we could do if we wanted to keep the comic in continuity.
Yeah, and canon, because I'm assuming obviously DuckTales is considered canon. I would imagine Frozen is, and Big Hero, that's canon to the series.
It's all canon.
Yeah, see, and you know, and Disney's very protective of all that stuff, which rightfully so, because that's you know, these are the brands and these are popular brands for them. But let's just read a couple of questions that I have here. Anthony says, hey Anthony, Victor Romero says he's considering The Legend of the Three Caballeros. So I guess that means he's going to watch it. I don't know. What are you considering to do with it, Victor? It's a cool show. Watch it. I liked it.
It is a cool show, yeah.
Yeah, it's different. Mike Stencil brings up something. I wanted to talk about this later on, but I mean, I guess we can mention it now. And I'll ask you, because I know you met him probably at the mall. What are your thoughts and feelings about the passing of Joe Sinnott? And have you had because we lost him today. And for anybody who doesn't know, Joe Caramagna and Joe Sinnott were guests at different IncrediCons that we had. So did you get to meet him when he was with us?
I didn't talk to him at IncrediCon, but I have spoken to him on a few occasions. I'm friends with someone who's close friends with Joe. Gotcha. And I sent him a text earlier today, giving my condolences that he lost his friend. Yeah. It's I mean, these guys, we don't get them forever. You know, you have to cherish them while they're here. And he had a really long run, and he was working right up until he couldn't work anymore. So I mean, lots of respect for Joe.
Absolutely, it was definitely incredible. Like, and Grazi and I were talking about this at IncrediCon. Like, and I mean, we're talking like October. He was with us in October, and then we had him last summer. He was sitting there just drawing away, and like, I mean, like working until the end. I mean, and incredible artwork. Yeah. He did not lose his touch at all. Like, you know, so
yeah.
And you know, like you said, we don't have these people forever, but you know, fortunately, he's left such a legacy of his work, you know, and then his son, his grandson, like they're amazing artists in their own right too. Like the Sinnott family, they do all kinds of cool creative stuff. Look them up online, guys. Like you'll see published writers, artists, all kinds of stuff. So I mean, it runs in their blood. So the Sinnotts are still going strong. So support him and support his family that way. I mean, absolutely. So let me ask you some other questions now. Your writing style, who's one of your biggest influences that you had?
Oh man, that's hard because I don't know if I give you a name right now, I don't know if you'd ever be able to recognize it in any of my work. I don't know if I write like any of my heroes. Definitely Denny O'Neil, who we also just lost.
Yeah.
Such a huge influence on me. The Green Arrow, Green Lantern stuff. Man, I read it maybe every year. I go back and read that trade just for a lot of years. That's something that really had an impact on me.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, Todd McFarlane, all the Image guys, they really knew how to use the art to smack you in the face. And I guess I try to do that as much as I can in the writing stage. I don't draw my own stories, but I try to emulate some of that because they really kept you moving through the book. That's for sure. I mean, they've gotten a lot of criticism for some of the writing in those old Image books, but they really kept your eyeballs. Let me tell you. So there's something to be said for that, and the sales numbers don't lie either.
Well, that's what I was just gonna say. Like they were definitely not struggling to this day. Like,
definitely not. And modern day. What's that? I'm sorry.
Todd McFarlane, he did his stuff at Marvel, and off he went and did his own thing.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Yeah. I mean, obviously he's very good because he's had success everywhere he's gone. So exactly. even in different industries, the toy industry is huge. Modern day, definitely Mark Waid, Ed Brubaker. Not only am I such a huge fan, but they're also guys that I was able to go to and ask questions, and they would help me out a little bit whenever I wanted to know how they did something or what their process was. Very generous with me with their time, and I'm sure many more. But I kind of, when I was younger, I didn't really know what a Joe Caramagna story, what that meant. And now I guess I feel like the past couple of years I've kind of come into my own, and I tell silly stories with a lot of heart, I guess. Yeah, so it's probably just a mixture of everything I loved growing up and in my whole life reading comics.
And that, I mean, we're sitting here talking about quarantine, pandemic life, right? I mean, the one, and again, this is the beauty of like what we're doing with this IncrediChat. Like we're reaching out to different artists and writers and people and actors. Like this is the time to be creative. Like I assume you're working on things right now. Anything that you want to talk about that you're working on or can talk about that you're working on right now?
I can't really talk about anything I'm working on right now, which is the hard part about working on some Disney stuff. Most of the work that I do is done way before anything gets announced, so I'm really limited in what I can say. But I have been doing stuff with Disney Games, Disney Interactive lately, and I've been doing more of that than Disney Comics. So look for that stuff. in the future.
Anthony said, "Give us something juicy."
I don't have anything juicy.
Watch Disney Interactive.
Yeah, I mean, once I'm allowed to say stuff, I'll say it. But
of course,
it's a big problem working with Disney, because for the longest time I was writing Frozen and I couldn't say anything. And I think it was like 3 years before I was finally allowed to say that I was writing Frozen. It's just crazy.
And you had the scoop on Frozen too before like a lot of people did.
I know, and I wasn't allowed to say anything.
How hard is that with like kids? Like your kids are like, "Dad, tell us," and you're like, "No."
Yeah, I kind of teased them. I'm like, "So I read the screenplay for Frozen 2." They're like, "What?" So I would hold that over them a little bit. And, hey, I know what happens, but I'm not going to tell you. I mean, I would never ruin it for them either. Like, I want them to see it in the theater, but just, to let them know that I know,
Well, like, and if I was in that position, and as a teacher, I do this with kids, and not that I'm saying anything ahead of time, like a lot of my kids watch like The Flash and like the CW shows, and but they'll watch it like on demand afterwards, right? And I'm like, dude, I'm like, The Flash last night, and they're like, why? What happened? I was like, Iris died. What? Don't tell me that. I'm like, no, not really.
Are you that guy? Are you that guy in the movie theater that you're like, what? Wait, watch this. Watch what happens.
I just make up like ridiculous stories for the next. You didn't see it, and then it's like, and it's so ridiculous. And then like the kids are like, "Oh, you're lying, aren't you?" I'm like, "Yeah, obviously." Again, we do have 2 questions that just came in. All right, Victor wants to know.
All right.
And he's not gonna. He's probably Mark says those CW shows are so bad. They are getting. I agree. But if anybody from the show wants to come on and talk, well, happy to have him here. Victor wants to know, and I'm going to pretty much say Joe's not going to say yay or nay to this. Will there be any games with Disney Afternoon characters or classic Mickey or Lion King characters? Wait and see.
I honestly don't know.
Okay.
You didn't name anything that I'm working on. I'll give you that much.
I mean, and the Disney, I love the Disney Afternoon. I would love to see more stuff with them. And I think DuckTales is really opening up the world. Like, I mean, so they introduced Darkwing Duck. I mean, I don't know if you know anything about it, but you won't say. But I mean, definitely that would be a great spin-off show at this point, because they really did a nice origin for him on there. And I know from the images, it looks like Wuzzles are coming in there. They introduced Chippendale's Rescue Rangers, but that was kind of cheesy the way that they did that. Did you see that episode with the Rescue Rangers?
I didn't see the episode with the Rescue Rangers, but weren't they doing a new Chippendale Rescue Rangers show?
I heard there's supposed to be a movie.
Is it a movie? I don't know.
I don't know. But the way
stuff unless they ask me to work on something.
Yeah,
so
what on DuckTales wasn't great. Goofy and his Goof Troop outfit was on there.
I didn't see that either.
And that was like there's only been like
I'm gonna have to go back and watch.
Yeah, but the Darkwing Duck story, the way they introduced him was really nice. I thought that was a really good
for sure.
Story. And they set him and Launchpad up really nicely, so I'd like to see them do more with that. But there's that big poster, I don't know if it came out in San Diego Comic-Con last year, you saw with like all the characters like coming down, guys. So I know like it looks like there's a Wuzzle in there. The Tailspin.
Was there a Wuzzle?
Yeah, go back and look at it. It's like a grizzly bear with like butterfly wings, which would be Butterbear.
Huh.
Yeah, which Gracia figure that out. Yeah.
Well, Gracia would know. If he says yes, then I believe him.
But the cool thing is when they're bringing Tailspin into the mix. But from what it looks like, it's supposed to be Cloud Kicker, like in the Baloo role, because maybe they didn't do the Jungle Book necessarily in that. So it looks like Cloud Kicker has a thing on because he's on his little airfoil, and like so I'm assuming there's stunt pilots, and there's like an older girl, Yellow Bear, which obviously must be Molly. And she's wearing the thing on her head, the colander on her head. So I'm wondering, like, Danger Woman, if you remember from the old Tailspin show, maybe that's like her stunt persona that she's doing. So I don't know. This is all just.
I don't know either.
No, But if you like Disney Afternoon, watch that. I know. I mean, like DuckTales definitely opened up the thing, and that as we're sitting here talking about this now, we're like getting all these messages. Like, see, you have to bring back Darkwing and Rescue Rangers, Darkwing Duck. Disney can make so much by rebranding Darkwing Duck. I agree with that. I really think.
I agree too. Yeah.
I can't think of his name, because we were chatting with, and I know you know him well. And what's his name? Who did the Darkwing comics? What's his name? James Savani.
Yeah.
Like
James.
He did an amazing one of them. Though that run was fantastic. The artwork was great, and the story was great. I know there were a lot of other issues that came up with that, but those were great books that he did. And then someone wrote, "Let's get
Aaron Sparrow."
Yeah, those were great. And then Anthony said, "I want the Chipmunks back," or Tom Selleck and Harrison Ford. Yes.
Yeah.
Back to the questions now.
All right.
Mark also wants to say he has the same donut mug as you, Joe.
Oh, yes. Take a look at it. You'll like this, Mike. It's a donut, but it's little Mickeys.
Ah, beautiful. And for you who don't know, and if you're a fan of Joe's, you should know that Joe loves donuts.
I do.
Like, I don't know. I don't even know how you find half those donuts that you advertise on your pages. This one is.
I seek them out. Every time I go to a convention when I travel, I look for two things. I look for the local donut shops, and I try like all their donuts. And I look for the local Ronald McDonald House so that I can make a donation. And those are the two things that I do every time I travel for a convention, in all my work travels. So that's where I find all my donuts. I look around. I ask the locals.
Well, let me ask you, because I live up here in the Hudson Valley. What you call it? Have you ever been? I'm just Googling it. It's called the Glazed Over Donuts. That's in Beacon, New York. Have you been there?
No. But when I went to IncrediCon at the Galleria, I stopped at a place called Daylight Donuts.
Daylight Donuts.
I don't know if you know Daylight Donuts.
I do not know Daylight Donuts. Where are they?
Forgetting. They're very good.
Like guys too. They're in Monroe. Interesting. Okay. All right.
What's in Monroe?
Daylight Donuts is in Monroe, New York. Oh, we're going to Monroe. I just let my girlfriend. Well, they were just like, we're gonna go to Daylight Donuts. No, So if you ever see Joe, bring him some donuts. But now, back to what Mark wanted to know. He said, "I love McFarlane." Was this a question or a statement? This was a statement. No, he said, "I love McFarlane. He is so enthusiastic about his craft after doing it for so long. I often feel like he gets lowballed for being so popular, but obviously no one cares more than him." Okay. And Gail Simone did an amazing job at Bongo Comics. Give her editorial powers for those characters. I'm guessing you're talking about the Disney characters, which would be interesting. So as we're getting ready to wrap up here, are there any dream characters or dream projects, team ups even, that you would like to do? I know you initially said your ultimate goal was Amazing Spider-Man, but now obviously you said you've evolved over the years. What would your dream project be?
I don't know if I should say, to be honest with you, because I've pitched a lot of my dream projects and they're being reviewed. So
this is a good thing. Well, no, I mean,
I don't know if I should give anything away. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I don't know. I've written so much stuff. I would love, actually, talking about dream projects, what I would love is to work on one of the attractions in the parks and do like a narrative for I know that there's news today that they're replacing Splash Mountain. Yeah, like something like that would be my ultimate dream, is to be involved in a park attraction. I say that, but I said my ultimate dream was, something else a few years ago, and then I was able to do it. Like there was a time my ultimate dream was to write Spider-Man stories, and I did that, and then it's like write Disney stories, I did that. So well, then it's not my ultimate, but it's my current my current ultimate dream.
So I mean, now you mentioned that. What do you think about this rebranding of or reimagining of Splash Mountain. I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see how they do that, and it's supposed to take place after the movie.
It takes place after the movie.
That's what I heard.
I didn't hear the details.
Yeah, I heard it's supposed to take place after the movie, but I mean, no, I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be cool. But
yeah, you can definitely see how they can transition it, and it'll be a great ride. You know, the environment. I mean, Princess and the Frog is in the bayou in the swamp, so it's perfect for the little boat ride, and then you go down the waterfall. I mean, it's seamless, and the location in Disneyland is just perfect. I mean, look where Splash Mountain is in Critter Country, right next to New Orleans Square. So it's perfectly placed. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I mean, nothing against the characters from you know, Splash Mountain and Song of the South, but like obviously that is a movie that we will never ever see, you know, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And you know, unfortunately, those characters are not relevant. Like, I mean, outside of that attraction, like nobody cares about those two characters or those I use the rabbit and the bear, but nobody really cares about them. So to put a character relevant, you know, and a positive role model to little girls, you know, so it's definitely more like, you know, again with the whole girl power thing, like, you know, that's awesome. That, you know, and it's not, and it's a thrill ride too, which is even cooler. So you're having like you know, a girl character like on a thrill ride, as opposed to, you know, like, oh, like here's this little happy little, you know, like a Little Mermaid ride you go through, and it's like, oh, it's just the songs. Like you're gonna have some drops, and some kids are gonna get scared, just like they do now.
Right.
Because the one thing I did, I believe, like going up to the big drop, I guess, you know, that whole I Got Friends on the Other Side. Apparently, that's somehow going to play into that, like that really dark part of it, and then that will into the drop. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Joe Ryan said.
I was going to say the only thing I'll miss. I'm not really a thrill ride fan, so I haven't ridden on Splash Mountain many times. I know it's not that scary, but I don't really go on many rides like that. The movie's very problematic, so this was a long time coming, and it should have been done a long time ago. But I definitely understand the problem Disney had, because I would say it's a top 5 attraction, wouldn't you? Like, I don't have any data, but I would guess like everybody loves Splash Mountain, so it must have been so hard for them to flip that switch, even though they probably realized, hey, we shouldn't really have this anymore. They probably said back in '86 or whenever, when it was built, like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this. But the thing that hurts me is that there's so many great songs from that movie, like Zippity Doo Dah. I mean, it's iconic, and that's what I'm gonna miss about it. And I don't mind at all if they replace it with some nice New Orleans jazz in the new incarnation of the attraction. But there's so many great songs in that movie. It's such a shame that it's otherwise so problematic.
Exactly. Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, no, it's definitely one of the top attractions there. No, I mean, you need that fast pass for if you want to get on that ride, or pass. But you know, it fits in there nicely, and I think it'll work. It'll work. And you know,
definitely work.
You're not a fan of the thrill rides. You know, someone once said to me that the rides at Disney, it is a song, it is a story, and then it's a drop. It's not a thrill ride. You go for a story, you go for a drop.
Everything has a story, and that's my mantra in all the meetings too. I always say, like, well, we're Disney, so story is everything, and I remind myself of that with everything I work on. So you're not just giving cute little lines to characters just for a laugh. Like, it's all part of a bigger story. All has to go somewhere, and that's what I love about Disney World and Disneyland, is that all those rides have a narrative, and it's not just, you know, you sit on something and it spins around and then you get all dizzy and leave. You know, like you actually leave there with like a moral. That's the teacup too, but
I won't go on the teacup because I will get dizzy. On that one.
See, that I love. I'll do the teacups.
Joe Ryan says he keeps hearing about IncrediCon in the Galleria. Do you think that you'll have it in Middletown again, Mike? That's 20. Listen, I guess, and we were talking about at the beginning of the show. My goal is I hope we can do IncrediCon in October. But just like the whole con world, like, Joe goes to a bunch of cons, I go to a bunch of cons. I don't know if things are going to happen in 2020. We're going to have to wait and see. And Anthony says 1 mall at a time. I guess I don't know, Anthony, if you're talking to Joe Ryan or Joe Caramagna, but you should come out to the next one, Joe. And obviously, if we do have a show and Joe feels comfortable enough in the current situation, Joe is always a guest with us because he's a good buddy of ours here at IncrediCon. So,
thank you very much.
So if we don't have any other questions, we have perfect timing. It's 9:30. So this is
great.
great.
All right. See.
So yeah, guys. Oh my goodness! You know what I totally forgot to do? Oh my gosh! Oh my. Well, no, it's not a bad thing. Let me just because this was again, this was recommended by my buddy over at Alterniverse. Oh, do you have a website, Joe?
I do not.
You do not.
No.
So
I do not.
How are
you gotta follow me on Twitter? That's the easiest place to find me.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah. And I have an Amazon author page where you can buy my books. That's about it.
All right.
I'm on Instagram, but I'm not on Instagram very often. I'm on Facebook, but I usually mostly talk to family on Facebook. So
yeah, no, because my buddy Anthony. So yeah, follow Joe Caramagna on Twitter, and like he said, go to his Amazon page. Let me see if I can pull that up here because I want to at least. There we go. Oh gosh, that can't be the right page. But yeah, go Google it. Go on Amazon.
You could search me on Amazon and you'll find it.
Yeah, you got it. And I looked. It has all the Frozen books, Rocket Raccoon. Yep. All kinds of great things. Yes, because and again, Anthony says you can find his books here at Alterniverse Comics. Absolutely. So those of you in the Hudson Valley,
Thank you very much.
Hudson Valley. Contact Anthony at Alterniverse Comics, and he'll get you Joe's books. And once everything is going well, we'll have Joe either at Alterniverse, or we'll have him at IncrediCon, and that will be an awesome time to see Joe and get some great comics. So once again, Joe, thank you for joining us on IncrediChat tonight. We'll be back on Monday. We have we were going to have another author in on Monday, but that might be pushed till Thursday because we might have a cool big thing happening Monday night. So to be announced. Keep following.
Oh.
Yeah. So thank you for doing this, guys. Thank you for supporting us, Anthony. Thank everybody who comes and watches us every week. So once again, thanks for joining us tonight on IncrediChat. Joe, thank you once again. And
my pleasure.
You guys all real soon.